This video examines grief through the biopsychosocial (BPS) and culturally responsive and socially just (CRSJ) lenses, viewing it as both a natural human process and a social experience rather than an illness to be fixed. The case of Jonah reflects a recent bereavement that has disrupted his sense of safety, belonging, and direction. Grief is approached as a normal response to major change and separation that unfolds uniquely across individuals and cultures. For some, however, it can become prolonged and overwhelming. Research on prolonged grief disorder, PGD, highlights how persistent yearning, difficulty accepting what has happened, and disrupted meaning can interfere with daily functioning. Eisma, 2023, Trammell et al., 2024. Isolation, unexpected bereavement, and limited emotional support can increase vulnerability to this form of grief. Boylan and Lenferink, 2022. From a counseling perspective, the work is not to erase grief, but to help it move, supporting clients in restoring a sense of safety, connection, and purpose. This video applies these frameworks to Jonah's experience through a case conceptualization informed by Sperry and Sperry, 2020. First heading, Overview of the Meta-Theoretical Lens, CRSJ. The culturally responsive and socially just, CRSJ lens, invites counselors to understand clients within their full social, cultural, and historical environments. It assumes that identity, power, and belonging influence how people experience suffering and resilience, Shabib, 2023. This framework asks for counselors to examine how systemic barriers, discrimination, or cultural disconnection contribute to distress that might otherwise be viewed narrowly as individual pathology. It recognizes that psychological health cannot be separated from the conditions in which people live and relate. The importance of this lens lies in its ability to make counseling both ethical and relevant. By integrating awareness of culture and justice into every aspect of practice, counselors can build relationships that honor lived experience and promote equity. Shabib, 2023, emphasizes that awareness without action is incomplete. Responsiveness requires adapting communication, intervention style, and treatment goals to align with the client's worldview. This process helps foster genuine collaboration and safety within the counseling relationship. A CRSJ approach strengthens practice by promoting humility, empathy, and inclusivity. It supports a broader understanding of human experience and reduces the risk of imposing dominant cultural norms within therapy. However, this lens can become limited if counselors overlook psychological or biological dimensions, while focusing solely on context. When used alongside evidence-based models, such as the biopsychosocial framework, CRSJ helps keep counseling connected and culturally aware, while still anchored in clear, outcome-based practice. Overview of the BPS framework. The biopsychosocial BPS framework provides a comprehensive structure for understanding human behavior and distress through the interaction of biological, psychological, and social systems. It rejects reductionist thinking by recognizing that no single factor accounts for well-being or dysfunction. Pinnell and Barnes, 2023. Biologically, the model considers genetics, neurochemistry, and physiology as key influences on emotion and behavior. Psychological elements include cognition, emotion regulation, personality, and learned coping strategies. Social factors capture the roles of family, culture, socioeconomic conditions, and community support. These dimensions are dynamic and mutually reinforcing rather than separate domains. The value of the BPS model lies in its integrative nature. It allows counselors to view mental health concerns through multiple lenses at once, creating space for both empirical evidence and personal meaning. The model has become foundational in contemporary counseling because it supports flexible, client-centered care and aligns well with trauma-informed and relational approaches. Recent studies emphasize that biological stress, emotional regulation, and social connectedness jointly influence recovery following loss or trauma. Boylan and Lenferink, 2022, Yao et al., 2025. The BPS model's greatest strength is its balance between breadth and specificity. It encourages counselors to gather information across systems, leading to more accurate formulations and ethically grounded interventions. Its main limitation is that it can overemphasize measurable factors while underrepresenting cultural and structural influences, if applied without a meta-theoretical lens such as CRSJ. Integrating both perspectives ensures that counseling remains evidence-based, culturally aware, and sensitive to the unique interplay between biology, psychology, and the social world. Overview of the disorder or topic. Grief is a universal human experience that arises after the loss of someone or something deeply meaningful. It is both emotional and physiological, involving shifts in mood, cognition, and even bodily regulation. Although most people gradually adapt, some experience prolonged distress, now recognized as prolonged grief disorder, PGD. This form of grief persists beyond the cultural period of mourning and leads to ongoing distress and functional impairment. ISMA, 2023, Tremel et al. 2024. The inclusion of PGD in the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. 5th ed. Text, Reventuri, DSM-5-TR, American Psychiatric Association 2022, and the International Classification of Diseases, 11th ed., ICD-11, World Health Organization, 2022, has increased attention to the distinction between adaptive and complicated grief. Grief can affect nearly every system of the body. Sleep, appetite, and immune function may fluctuate as stress hormones remain elevated. Pinnell and Barnes 2023. Psychologically, people often struggle with yearning, disbelief, and changes in self-identity, particularly when the loss is sudden or accompanied by trauma. Socially, grief can be intensified by stigma, isolation, or lack of culturally appropriate support. Harrop et al., 2023. Recent studies suggest that between 7 and 10% of bereaved adults develop PGD, Bolin and Lenferink, 2022. Risk is higher after unexpected deaths, suicide, or loss during public crises, such as the COVID-19 pandemic. Breen et al., 2023. Protective factors include strong social networks, meaning-making processes, and opportunities for ritual and remembrance. Understanding grief in this broader context helps counselors validate pain while identifying when symptoms indicate a need for targeted intervention. Case description. Jonah is a 35-year-old cisgender gay man who lives with his partner Stephen in Ottawa, Canada. Both are employed at the National Gallery of Canada, where Jonah works as a curator and Stephen as an archivist. They share a home studio and a long-standing interest in the arts, occasionally exhibiting and selling their work locally. Jonah describes his family as close and supportive. He came out as gay at 15 and recalls his parents and 3 sisters as accepting. His father's sudden death from a heart attack 1 year ago has deeply affected him. Since then, Jonah has experienced persistent worry about the safety and well-being of loved ones. He checks traffic updates and contacts family members frequently for reassurance, aware that the behavior feels excessive but finds it difficult to control. Jonah reports muscle tension, fatigue, irritability, and disturbed sleep. His anxiety affects concentration and engagement at work, as well as enjoyment of activities such as socializing or walking the dog. Although his relationship remains stable, he and Stephen have ongoing conflict over Jonah's preference to stay home. He has reduced his alcohol and cannabis use and tried massage therapy with limited benefit. Jonah has no prior mental health diagnosis, but recognizes that this level of worry feels new and overwhelming. CRSJ and BPS approach to counseling. Jonah's experience of grief and anxiety reflects the interaction of personal, relational, and systemic influences that are best understood through an integrated, culturally responsive, and socially just (CRSJ) lens and biopsychosocial (BPS) framework. Jonah's distress reveals how social messages about strength and control can constrain genuine expression of grief. CRSJ lens invites the counselor to explore how these expectations shape his relationship to vulnerability. Shabib 2023. Recognizing these patterns prevents pathologizing his coping and instead frames his vigilance as a learned way of preserving safety and connection. Physiologically, Jonah's fatigue, restlessness, and muscle tension suggest a prolonged stress response that can sustain anxiety long after the initial loss. Pinnell and Barnes, 2023. Psychologically, intrusive thoughts and disrupted sleep indicate dysregulated arousal processes often linked to grief-related anxiety. Eisma, 2023. Socially, his avoidance of friends and reduced engagement with his partner limit co-regulation and belonging, factors known to prolong distress. Harrop et al., 2023. These domains reinforce one another. Heightened arousal amplifies anxious thought patterns, which increase social withdrawal and perpetuate physiological tension. Bolin and Lenferink, 2022. Integrating CRSJ and BPS lenses enables the counselor to hold both the embodied and contextual aspects of grief. In practical terms, the counselor could alternate between body-based grounding to support physiological regulation and narrative exploration that connects emotion with social context and meaning. This dual awareness supports therapy that moves fluidly between emotional processing and practical restoration, helping Jonah rebuild safety, connection, and meaning after loss. Counselor role in therapeutic relationship. The counselor's role with Jonah is to provide a grounded therapeutic presence while gently expanding his tolerance for emotion and uncertainty. A biopsychosocial lens guides session structure through attention to physiological regulation, cognitive patterns, and social connection. For instance, when Jonah arrives tense or hypervigilant, the counselor might begin with grounding exercises that slow breathing and orient awareness of physical safety before exploring emotion or meaning. Pinnell and Barnes, 2023. This stabilizes the nervous system so that reflection can occur without overwhelm. The counselor then helps Jonah link automatic thoughts about control and safety with the physical sensations that arise alongside them. This process normalizes anxiety as part of grief and supports gradual exposure to emotion. Culturally responsive and socially just (CRSJ) practice brings awareness to relational and contextual meaning. Jonah's discomfort with dependence may mirror social expectations about self-reliance. In session, responsiveness could involve validating these values while reframing openness as strength. Shabib, 2023. The counselor maintains cultural humility by inviting Jonah to define what support and resilience mean in his life, ensuring that interventions align with his worldview rather than imposing an external standard of coping. Ethically, the counselor's role is bound by respect for dignity, integrity, and self-awareness. Canadian Counseling and Psychotherapy Association, CCPA, 2020, A1, B11, B12. Staying attuned to personal bias and emotional reactions prevent countertransference and keeps boundaries clear. CCPA, 2020, B15. Maintaining confidentiality, CCPA 2020, B4, and informed consent ensures Jonah's sense of safety and autonomy throughout therapy. When ethical care is paired with transparency and evidence-based practice, the relationship itself becomes part of the healing process, building the trust and steadiness that help grief find movement again. Case conceptualization. Using the framework outlined by Sperry and Sperry, 2020, pp. 93 or 94, Jonah's experience can be understood through the interrelated factors of presentation, precipitant, predisposing, and protective elements. Jonah present with persistent worry about the safety of loved one, sleep disturbance, fatigue, irritability, and social withdrawal following the sudden death of his father 1 year ago. Situations that evoke uncertainty or perceived danger, such as travel or delayed communication, maintain heightened anxiety. Eisma, 2023. Predisposing factors include Jonah's strong sense of responsibility and loyalty, which influence his coping style. Physiologically, he demonstrates a sustained stress response. Pinnell and Barnes, 2023. Culturally, his value on stability and care for others shapes how he expresses and regulates emotion. Shabib, 2023. Perpetuating factors include reassurance-seeking and avoidance that temporarily reduce anxiety yet reinforce hypervigilance and isolation, limiting co-regulation and emotional recovery. Harrop et al., 2023, Bolin and Lenferink, 2022. Protective factors include his supportive relationships, creative expression, insight into his patterns, and motivation to engage in counseling. Conclusion: this video explored grief through the biopsychosocial, BPS, and culturally responsive and socially just, CRSJ lenses, applying both frameworks to Jonah's experience of loss. Integrating these approaches illustrated how biological, psychological, and cultural dimensions interact in shaping human responses to grief. The analysis emphasized that grief is not a pathology to be removed, but a natural process that can become complicated when safety, connection, or meaning are disrupted. Isma 2023, Tremel et al. 2024. With counseling, the BPS lens provided structure for understanding physiological arousal and cognitive patterns, while the CRSJ perspective ensured these factors were understood within their relational and cultural context. Shabib 2023, Pinnell and Barnes 2023. Case conceptualization using Sperry and Sperry's 2020 model underscored how vulnerability and resilience coexist. Jonah's anxiety and vigilance were framed as learned strategies for preserving safety rather than signs of weakness. Counseling from this integrated stance invites restoration through regulation, connection, and meaning-making. Ultimately, the work of therapy is to support the natural movement of grief and the rediscovery of balance and belonging that follow loss.